I'm sorry.
Yeah,
It was
Either Baldwin book or essay that, or even piece of writing that even in this current time, you're like this should be required reading because I think it speaks to where we're at, even if it's a society thing or just personally or anything.
um, should I say all of them? But um, um, probably nothing personal. I think nothing personal is really good to speak into the moment of where we are. Um, it's a little bit prophetic, um, and in this moment in time where we are. So I would recommend nothing personal. It's a really short essay. It's a book. I would say that one. And
Gotcha. Yeah, what was it? What was like the first book you read by Baldwin? And which one kind of? All right, well, yeah. What was the first one that you remember reading?
probably was Notes of Native Son. So I was a huge Richard Wright fan, and I actually liked Native Son. So I want to say it stood out to me of his critique of it. And I was like, oh man. I was like, I like hearing both sides of an argument. I was like, I didn't think about it. So he opened up my mind to a different way of thinking, from a, looking at our literature and society from a different lens and seeing some of, the negative stereotypes that the protagonist portrayed in Native Son. So I was like, oh, and I think I was like, well, let me read more of his work. And I think I read The Fire Next Time after that.
Oh yeah.
Um, and at this time, I'm swallowing books. I'm probably reading. Whew, I don't know, man. At the time, during this time, I was probably reading, man, close to 10, 10 books a month. So I was just swallowing literature.
Yeah, I wish we had more of that now, where it's just those we get the best of the best writers having critiques on it, and they do like a whole book on it, right? So it's like I just think we could use that more, and just instead of in society now where we just if someone says it, we just take it for face value or we don't push back on it enough. I enjoy that, like we're kind of talking about that, even if it's not always about sparring, but sometimes just bringing a different perspective or something that you might have missed and position it in a different way for people to still get what you're saying, but also see where you have fallen in some of the information that you're providing.
Why don't you think we do that today? Like our literary artists within our community, because there've always been some critiques of other literary artists within the Harlem Renaissance, but you don't necessarily see it today. And why do you think that is? And do you because I'm referring to your reference that you feel like there's room for it today.
Yeah, there is room for it. And if you think about it, to the ability to put out information has actually become easier than it's ever been, right? Because you have the ability to self-publish, even if it's not under a traditional publisher. And you have the ability to go to social media and write a very long, or even a Substack, or you can post it on Bookem for all I care. I don't know why. I think maybe it's just people have become a sense of I might as well do my own thing, and I don't really care to have. And maybe it's also maybe the expanding of views where people don't always think in terms of just their I don't know, lack of term, like maybe just the group they find themselves in, right? So whether it's um I don't know. I really don't have a great answer for why it doesn't happen. I'm just kind of thinking out loud. Like maybe it's just the fact that people are maybe more afraid to talk up on people's issues because of things like cancel culture and things like that, and they don't want to mess up somebody's money just because they think I don't. I think there's a lot of things that maybe are getting in the ways of those intellectual sparring matches that used to happen all the time back in the day, where you had a Malcolm X and Martin Luther King challenging each other, or James Baldwin challenging Malcolm X, or vice versa. I think there was a lot of that back in the day, and you had it across all different races too. That people would challenge each other, whether it's in music and all that. So I really don't have a great answer for it, but I think there's just barriers of either it's easier to get information out there, so therefore people forget about this, it's not as relevant, or like I said, maybe it's just more of a fearfulness to attack those bigger ideas. What do you think?
But I don't know, but Edgar Jr., he says that we're at a moment in society where we don't know how to disagree without being disagreeable. So I think that has something to do with it, is that there's been such a lack for intellectual discourse that we've lost our North Star on how to disagree without being disagreeable. And I think it's always been precarious for Blacks to be able to do that. You know, we have to walk a fine line because you have this opposition forces that will draw a wedge in between us. And I think we're at a moment where individuals are somewhat sensitive to the criticisms that we get because it's so massive. You know, like for instance, you know, there's a lot of people at the time, they may not have even known Langston Hughes and Zora Hurston was beefing, you know. But today, you if you have two Black prominent figures and they have a mild disagreement, it is all over social media. Everyone has an opinion. So I think that the volume of attacks and opinions and outside opinions is what brings hesitation to the critique.
Yeah, and you know, being on the AUC campus in Atlanta, Morehouse, Clark, Atlanta, Spelman, Morris Brown, that used to happen all the time. You'd always have intellectual sparring battles about anything. It could have been sports, it could have been, and we used to do it all the time. Like, you know, like even W. Du Bois versus Booker T. Washington, and those very different mentalities that happened all the time. But I think, as you said, to a lot of your point, it is that feeling of they don't have to disagree without, yeah, like you said, without being disagreeable. I think that is kind of sums it up in a very simple way of why people don't challenge as much as it could be.
I think one of the last memorable ones, and you chime in here. What was one of the last memorable critiques within our literary community? Do you remember? Because I have one in my mind, but I just want to see if it's the one that you're thinking about.
Mm. Of recent, you're saying a recent time?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know which one you got. Let me see if
I'm thinking about Cornel West and Ta-Nehisi Coates.
okay. Okay.
Um, uh,
Because and
those,
I was gonna say, yeah, I was gonna say Cornell West and Michael Eric Dyson, they get into it a lot too.
yep. Uh-huh. So um, I want to say Cornell. So yeah, but I enjoy it. Like I enjoy reading the perspectives. I you know, like right now, I'm reading James Baldwin's review, Volume 8, and it's just a review from a number of different scholars who reviewed his work, and they're just giving their opinion on it. Some critical and some celebratory.
You know,
Yeah.
I appreciate you bringing this up because I definitely want to write about this because it's just interesting. Like I haven't thought about in a while what makes us as a society less likely to push back on things. If you enjoyed that clip, make sure you head over to www.bookupapp.com to download our app so you can connect with your favorite bookish content creators, start conversations, and start your own book club.